Hello, I hope you're having a good day. Welcome to my channel. I've decided to do a reading asking the Malayan Tapir for guidance. So the 4 cards that I got in this reading was awareness, conditioning, the violet flame, and failure. So with the awareness card, you'll see that as time goes on, when the 3D things fall away within yourself, there is this inner stillness, this inner knowing that's more of an observer of everything. Your 3D vessel, your thoughts and feelings are all traveling through everything that's going on right now, but there's the spirit within you that's just the backseat, not necessarily the backseat driver, but just the one observing everything that's going on, not necessarily afraid or not even necessarily excited, but just an inner knowing, an inner being, just existing. So regardless of everything that's going on around you, there's a part of you inside that once you stop being so attached to the 3D chaos or the 3D excitement, and not even whether good or bad, just any kind of turmoil or any kind of distraction going on, there's this part inside of you that stays grounded, that stays just seeing what's going on. So once you let go of the illusions around you, of your perceptions of things around you, you'll step into this part of awareness that isn't reactionary to any of it. And that's what this card's trying to show you with that. The next card I pulled was the conditioning card. So with this card, you see this lion here. That's you right now. You can see that he's not very content where he's at. He has this seriousness about him, almost this inner thought going on that we can't perceive at the surface. You have all these illusions around you. You have all of these, whether it's your thoughts, whether it's people that you're kind of stuck around, that are causing this kind of clouded judgment for you. And it's easy to get lost in that, especially when we're so conditioned to want to stick to societal standards or to follow what the people around us, whether it's people we're just work with or people that we're close to, we have a habit of wanting to stick to their advice or wanting to do what they're doing. And there's nothing wrong with that. As humans, we're literally like programmed and as a way to stay safe by being similar to each other or by being in groups. That's literally like how we evolved. We evolved as social beings. We evolved as being around others to stay safe from death or from sickness or illness. And we have a natural fear in us to not want to be solitary, at least not naturally. Maybe some of us, through any types of traumas or rejection, have gotten used to being like lone wolves, but it's not really in general a natural behavior in humans. Humans are typically social beings, and we don't like rejection. We don't like necessarily standing out, especially like not in a negative way, at least not in our typical natural state. So with this, it's just realizing like you maybe have had the bad habit of giving in to what others want or letting their thoughts or their fears or insecurities kind of latch onto you, and it's been weighing on you. But once you kind of realize that you can have a balance, you can still get along with people, but also realize, like, no, like, just because this narrative is what's been helpful for them or what's been getting them through life or where they belong, it doesn't have to be a bad thing. There's nothing wrong with being a sheep, like, if that's your natural state. If you're a lion and you're trying to be a sheep, that's not going to work within who you're supposed to be. If you have a different calling or a different place you're supposed to be at, then even if you try to be a sheep, you're not a sheep. And just like if like they just like if this card was different where it was a bunch of lions and one sheep, it would be the same thing. Like, just be who you are in your spirit. Be who that inner knowing is, who that inner calling is. Because even though he's been shown, like, oh, you're a sheep, you're supposed to know, you're supposed to be this way, you're supposed to be that way, you can see there's a part of him that's not really content, that knows that something's up, that something's off. And in this story, it takes somebody showing him his own reflection, like, no, just because you were raised around sheep doesn't mean that that's who you truly are. Like, you're actually a lion. And you'll have to focus on working on any kind of programming you have that has taught you to go against what you really wanted. It's kind of like a lot of the hero's journeys, that it's like they're in a place they don't belong, or they just feel like something's off in their heart. This is where you're at, that you know that there's a different part of you. You know that there's something else, a different light going on. It's just a matter of you finally deciding, like, I don't want to be tied up in these other narratives. It doesn't have to necessarily be that those narratives are bad for the people they're for. If you're an architect and that's what you like to do, then great. But if you're supposed to go to space, then you're not going to be happy sitting making buildings, just like somebody making buildings wouldn't be happy doing something that they're not supposed to. So again, it's like everybody has their own calling, their own purpose, but there's something else that you're either not being honest with yourself about, or that you can just feel isn't right. So once you look in that reflection, once you look in the river and see who you are, once you open up this inner part of you, you'll be able to realize, like, what makes you happy, or what brings, like, joy or ease or peace to your life. Whatever that missing piece is inside of your life or your surroundings, you just have to sit with yourself and really realize, like, all these illusions, all of this confusion is going to move away from you once you really tap into that inner self. And once you do finally step into that, we have the violet flame, which speaks of just kind of finding almost like that happy place. Because once you do get to that point where you're working on being who feels right to you, you're going to need to have a practice that will keep you grounded, that will help pretty much cleanse your aura and your spirit of any types of confusion, any types of chaos that will keep you distracted or keep you off your path. So just really staying in that connection to source when you have all of this, like, inner or outer dialogue that's confusing you, or that's making you feel like you're not in the right place, or making you feel like, oh no, I need to do this or that, or something's wrong. You're gonna need to hold on to that light, to that connection to your higher self that is gonna keep you grounded, that practice that's gonna help keep you joyous and keep that inner child happy, pretty much. So there's different ways you can do that. It really just depends, because everybody has different things that light them up. So once you use those things to help you kind of just reset, whether it's going outside, or if there's, even if it's something little like, oh, I'm gonna watch my favorite show that just cheers me up, or I'm gonna go ask, my favorite person for some advice, or even just winding down, whatever helps you kind of get back to center, that helps you refocus on like what you are and what makes you happy, then it'll be easy to see through these kind of issues. So also the violet flame is like a good way to cleanse. This card does mention like when you do meditation, it helps to imagine violet light around you to cleanse you. So if you do have a meditation practice, I know some people will picture like a golden light, a white light. Sometimes people do like a blue flame. So in this case, it's the violet flame. But you can do any type of meditation that will work for you if that is part of your practice. And if you aren't really big on meditating, even when you take a shower, just picture the water cleansing your physical vessel and spiritual vessel of any of the troubles of the day. If you do spiritual baths, that can help, or even just grounding, whether it's just like laying down on the dirt on the grass. Anything that just kind of helps you reset and helps you from getting overwhelmed by these types of just almost illusions or chaos. And then the final card was failure. So it says, I understand that a mistake is only an opportunity to learn. So just like this lion literally spent its whole life thinking it's a sheep, only to realize like, oh wow, I've been a lion this whole time. It would be easy for him to realize like, oh my gosh, I wasted so much time trying to be a sheep. I wasted so much time following the herd because I thought that's who I was or what I was supposed to do. And it would be easy for him to fall into those thought patterns, to fall into that negative thinking, those loops. But once you accept like, hey, like I'm a human, like I'm going to mess up, this is a part of life, it's easy to just beat yourself up about doing something wrong. And that's not to say don't be accountable for your mistakes, but being harsh with yourself or cruel to yourself because you're not where you are quote unquote supposed to be, or where you want to be, or where you plan to be, being rough with yourself isn't going to make it better. It's not going to change where you're at right now. So just being able to accept like, yeah, I messed up, and to own up to your mistakes, own up to where things have gone wrong, and instead of being just upset about it or, putting yourself down for it, acknowledging those mistakes, acknowledging the failure, and being accountable, and realizing that you don't have to repeat those patterns. You don't have to stay in those mistakes. And once you're ready to step forward and learn the lesson and make different choices from that lesson, it's okay. You'll see it as a pretty much a bump along the road, but also like, well, you know what? Like maybe that's just something that I needed to learn. Like, and it does suck sometimes, like just like, oh, well, it was a chance to learn, especially when you do feel like, well, I wasted time, or I didn't have to waste the time. But it's like, when him spending his whole life thinking he's a sheep when he wasn't, there's still things he learned that is going to help him. That's not only has helped him during his life, but will actually help him when he's finally ready to step into, like, oh, I'm a lion, because now he also has a completely different perspective. He has a different understanding, having been raised the way he was. So it will help him not only now that he realizes he's a lion, but also get that other perspective. So when you realize, like, yeah, I messed up on different things, or I had to learn a lesson multiple times, it's really helping still add building blocks to whatever ideas or whatever goals that you have for yourself, or even if it's just your path of personal development. Like, every single mistake is still able to teach you something, even if it's as simple as, like, I never want to make that mistake again. So just having some compassion for yourself. And again, you can't change what's already happened, so just taking it as a chance to learn better and do the right thing next time, or just understanding that, again, as a human, these mistakes are going to happen, and it's how you react to them, both towards other people that may be involved, but also towards yourself, because people learn better through having that patience, having that understanding, versus just reacting or being cruel or being harsh. So I hope that this has kind of given you some guidance on whatever might be kind of having you a little overwhelmed. I know it's the full moon and the eclipse, so there might be a lot of chaotic energies around you, but just again, like, remembering that inner knowing and that inner, like, not necessarily peace, but just that inner being in you that doesn't have to be reactionary towards everything else around you, and continuing with any practices or starting a practice to help. Because especially in times like now, it's easy to get overwhelmed by all that's going on. So just having that little piece of joy, that little piece of yourself and your connection to your higher self, or if you believe in a higher power, anything like that, just having that to help you unwind and to not get caught in any types of loops or just unnecessary stress, because it's not going to help just freaking out for the sake of freaking out. Like, it's one thing to have a plan for yourself, or have a plan for the people you care about, or the projects, or whatever type of calling that you may have. But in order to help with those things also, you need to make sure that you're in the right headspace too. So hopefully this will give you some encouragement for that and help you on your way to being that lion, because I'm sure there's been a part of you that's known that, but sometimes it does help having other people show you that, having other people point that out to you. And just, again, remember that inside of you, there is this part of you that is just watching the story unfold. So thank you for your time, and I hope you have a great day.